Okay, let's try this one more time. I'm going to demonstrate the bug where it seems that conveyor lifts specifically are bugged in blueprints, and in order to demonstrate, I think that it's actually a problem with conveyor lifts, not just blueprints, just the lifts themselves are bugged in general. To start off with the demonstration, where are my, there they are. If you want to send things between containers on conveyor belts or any sort of source of something into any consumer of something along conveyor belts, you would just put a conveyor belt in between the two ports like this. Works exactly as intended. As you can see, they come out of the building, they go into the other building. Intended behavior, this is how it's supposed to work. No problems there so far. Decide to use conveyor lifts to lift things up and over stuff. Put them in there. There they are. Put them in. Works almost exactly as intended. There seems to be a visual gap here, but it seems to just be visual, so it's not really that big of a problem. Except this has got to be happening for a reason, right? Why is this happening? Then you start to notice some other behavior. Whenever you start deciding to use more fancy configurations. And this is where I think the problem with blueprints are coming in. Because most people use blueprints specifically so that they can save all the tedious work that goes into trying to set up stuff like this. Like you have to go through a whole ordeal to make these little configurations. So we decide to set them up. It's not working, right? It's not even trying. It's not even in the lift. It's just not doing anything. Bizarrely, get rid of that. Take this, put it into there. The one on the right is working. So you just watched me build that whole configuration. I did nothing different. In fact, we can do something else to prove that everything, this is already working. We know that it's working. But just to rebuild it, let's rebuild it again. This time. This should just work. Like, there should be no excuse for this not working. We're going to do it again. But this time, just to kind of eliminate any variables that could be causing problems, we're going to get rid of these. So that maybe there's some snapping bullshit going on. No, we're going straight from conveyor to conveyor, from lift to lift. And it's still not working. Still not working. As you can clearly see, nothing happening. There's nothing in the lift. Nothing is happening. We'll do another test right quick because I technically haven't tried this yet. I'm going to see if I can take from a container on this side and put it into a container on this side. Because we demonstrated that it wasn't working over here. Let's see what happens when we try to do it over here. It won't even try snapping in that configuration, and I've found that if it doesn't try to snap in that configuration, it usually means it's not going to work. See, over here, this one probably will work. So maybe it has something to do with the source versus where it's going. Yeah. See, in this configuration, okay, so it seems to not be based on the cardinal direction like I originally thought. It seems to be based on the direction of the belt and which lift is going into what lift. For some reason, outputs on the lifts are bugged and inputs aren't. That's what it seems like. Because if we go back to this example, this right here is an output. And it has that visual bug, but it's not on an input. This is an input. It seems to be connecting validly and then sending out on the output. And if we go back, well, actually, no, this one isn't working at all. I don't know why this is such an inconsistent bug, but it seems to be the problem that lifts are definitely bugged, and it's not just the blueprints, it's just the lifts in general are bugged. They seem to just not be working. Let's try doing this again. Yeah, it's not doing nothing. come over here, take this here. I love the hover pack. There we go. So now we should be able to take our stuff, put it in this chest, and because the lifts aren't really, it's got the same visual bug as an output, but the input doesn't have the same bug. If we come over here and try to put from here to here, you can clearly see that it's working. In fact, let's just do this. Go from here to here. It is working and has the same visual bug. It seems to be on the output, not the input. So there's visual bug there, visual bug here. Use the conveyor pole here. Okay, it's working now for some reason. Also, that's bugged. You can see how those are going down sideways instead of tall ways. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know how this glitch is working and it's driving me insane. It seems the most consistent behavior that I've been able to see it's not working, is that if you glitch the lift into the building, like if you move the port where it's trying to connect further into this, it seems like it's not working. And I don't know if that's a bug with the lift or if it's a bug with the output ports of all the buildings not being aligned properly. Whatever the case, as you can see, it's just, it seems to be consistent that I can get it to not work consistently, but it's inconsistent because sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't, and I just don't understand what the difference is, why it does and why it doesn't, when it does, when it doesn't. It seems the most consistent behavior I can explain is that if you glitch the lift into something, somehow it doesn't work, but sometimes it will. So I really don't know what it is that causes it to not work. It seems to be you try to do funny, funky stuff with lifts, doesn't work. So you would expect, well, if you don't do funny, funky stuff with lifts, they will work, but then you see the visual bug and notice that there's something going on with them. They definitely are bugged in some way. It just seems that the most consistent way to get them to work properly is to not try to get fancy with them. Like over here, I had to rebuild this blueprint 3 times because these weren't working, and I had to essentially give up on having it compressed in any way and just use regular lifts in a regular lift configuration. And I have to go through and like manually put the mergers on the top after the fact because I don't even trust putting mergers and splitters in the blueprint anymore.